There was a show called Three's Company that my sister forced me to watch when I was growing up, and I couldn't stand it. It drove me bonkers, and I think it set the precedent for everything I do now for a living. So let's get into it. There was a TV show, Three's Company. I guess it started in the 80s, I don't know, late 70s, something like that. And my sister loved the show, and it was about a guy that had two girl roommates. They were all just roommates. And basically every single episode dealt with some sort of misunderstanding or miscommunication, misinterpretation. I mean, every single episode. And it drove me bonkers because I couldn't figure out why they just didn't go, time out. Let's just clarify this before we all lose our minds.
I don't think it'll reach.
Of course not. You've got to unfold it first.
But it happens every day in life, doesn't it? Where somebody misinterprets something that you say or you mean. And so in Three's Company, every episode would kind of go like this. Jack, the male roommate, would be in the kitchen talking on the phone and says, I need a pot for cooking. The landlord would overhear this and go, he needs pot, thinking he meant the drug. And Jack was talking about a pot for cooking. And you'd have 27 minutes of chaos where the landlord was trying to find their drugs. And at the end, they would all come together in less than 30 minutes, because it was a sitcom, right? You have to resolve all the problems in 30 minutes in fantasy world. And they would all come back together and they'd say, you meant cookie pot? I thought you meant drugs. Ha ha ha. And then they'd all hug and move on with their life. Well, it'd be great if in our life, we could actually know when somebody misinterprets in 30 minutes or less. But all too often, it just doesn't happen that way. You'll say something, you'll think it was clear, and people will go do something totally different. And especially if you're in a management or leadership position, it will drive you bonkers. But this is also true of the people that you're leading. It's not their fault that they sometimes didn't understand. I always believe that the communicator, that's you, is responsible to ensure clarity with the people that you're speaking to. And so I reiterate a lot. I ask people to repeat back to me, and all too often they'll repeat back to me in a way and I'll like, ooh, that's not what I meant at all. Good, let's translate this problem right now. So I got two real big corporate examples. So it's not just on TV shows like Three's Company. It's not just in your internal communications, but even if you're putting out messages for a major corporation, you got to make sure that you understand what the meaning of a word is to multiple groups. And it takes a little time to pick a name. It takes a little time before you send out a new advertisement, a new communication. So I think about the Chevy Nova a lot, this really terrible car that Chevy put out. And in English, Nova meant one thing, but in Spanish, Nova, N-O-V-A, meant no go. So literally they put out a car that with a massive amounts of, I don't know if it's billions of people that speak Spanish, but it's a lot. And they put out a car that said no go, like the car's a no go. So clearly probably didn't sell great in the Hispanic markets. And then I think about in the 60s, Pepsi came out with an ad and it said, come alive with the Pepsi generation. Come alive with the Pepsi generation. Right? That sounds pretty cool. Who can misinterpret that? Well, apparently people that speak Mandarin, which are a billion people on the planet. In Mandarin, the language translated to Pepsi brings your relatives back from the dead, or something kind of akin to that. And so pretty big misinterpretation in a major marketplace. And I guess in the 60s, the Chinese marketplace wasn't as big for Pepsi as it is now, but certainly a lot of people spoke Mandarin. So watch those mistranslations and try to slow down and really make sure you understand the meaning and make sure your audience understands the meaning before you say it. And a matter of fact, just earlier this week, this is what got me thinking of how much I hated Three's Company growing up, was we were having a partners meeting in our own shop. And it got brought up, is this project ready to go? Are they good to go? Now, one partner said, absolutely, we're ready to start this project. And another partner said, we are not ready to start. And thank God we came together to figure out what the meaning of ready to start meant, because it's just a word. Every word has a definition. And all too often we don't slow down and go, what did you mean by that word? So, well, I stopped everybody. And I was like, what do you guys mean by good to go, ready to start? Well, the partner said ready to start, said we have everything from the client, we have a signed contract. And the other partner said, oh yes, we absolutely have all that, but we haven't assigned a team and started it. Oh, well, I think we're all saying the same thing here, but thank God we slowed down a little bit to make sure that we now move the team in on that project and got to work. It was such a simple little phrase, but I even think about, here comes the biking analogy. Like, I got to give you one fitness example, is a lot of times somebody will say, hey, we're going to start the bike ride at 5 p.m. It's going to start at 5 p.m. Well, what does 5 p.m. mean? Does that mean wheels up when we are rolling out of the parking lot at 5? Or does that mean we're getting there and getting organized at 5? I mean, both meanings are totally justifiable. Both meanings are absolutely fine, but it's hard to interpret, and people will take it different ways. And it's so, we're going to meet at the club at 6. Well, does that mean we're walking in or we're at the table? I don't know what, slow down and ask for a translator. So here's your pro tip. You're the master of your communications. Asking people to write down what they heard and reiterate to you in an email, asking them to repeat it back to you. I know it sounds a little juvenile, but you'll be shocked at how many times you get the opportunity to correct confusion in what you're saying if you ask them to repeat it back to you and go, look, I just want to make sure you understand the way I'm saying it because I cannot say it clearly. You might, be busy and thinking about other things right now. So getting people to repeat back, getting people to put it in writing, or you put it in writing after you tell somebody, just to make sure it's clear. And then check to make sure they're not off path, off the direction that you want people to go. And if you just assume that everybody knows exactly what you're saying, and you assume, once again, I'm using this assumption word a lot right now because you know how I hate that, is if people are just going to assume, a lot of times things get all screwed up and they don't come back together in 30 minutes like Three's Company and translate, and everything goes kind of off the reservation, and you get frustrated and mad at people, all because of a lack of clear communication. So really make sure you understand the definition of words, have people repeat back to you what the intent is, and I think you'll get better results. At least that's a lot of times what we do just internally in our shop. I hope this tip blah, blah, blah. Let me start over. I hope this tip helps, and most of all, I hope you don't watch Three's Company. It'll drive you bonkers if you care about clear communication. Thanks.